was just talking with Garrett about his first game, and I realized I played this game entirely wrong.
That makes me curious.
I just need to read. I just need to read Garrett's write-up that Poody wrote.
Didn't he get like 24th place or something?
Yes.
His first season.
His first season, he got like 15th or 16th, but he's still one fan favorite.
Oh my god, it's a whole George Costanza thing. He really looks like a Lorne. That was self-described.
From y'all's season, it's probably closest to a Missy, but it wasn't even close.
That was one of the funniest things I've read. I was literally laughing so hard. And then he texted me back. I messaged him. I was like, dude, the birthday thing. And he goes, nobody even believed it was my birthday.
You wouldn't believe how many people have faked injuries to get sympathy and get out of votes. It's kind of,
oh, I believe it.
Getting hit by a car is a meme in Stranded because so many people have said that they got hit by a car. I'll introduce Nick and just edit that part out if he doesn't show up. He kind of betrayed the bros, let's be real.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, yeah.
He's a ex-bro.
Yes.
He's not a true bro.
What he could have been.
32 days, 4 bros, and 1 podcast. This is Stranded in Tanzania, and I'm your host, Poody. Today we're joined by alumni from Stranded in Tanzania, our bros, if you will. Aaron.
How we doing? Good to be here.
Dean.
Was good.
And Carl. And baby Nick. We're lucky. Carl's also having some technical difficulties, so hopefully
sorry if you can't hear me too well. I have to use like my Samsung buds for this now.
That's okay.
Any
we can hear you.
voice is better than no voice.
Cool. I'm happy to be here.
All right, so you guys got a lot of shit this season, but I think I personally think that's better than not having anyone talk about you at all. So first of all, I want to clear the air on things you might have heard from us in podcasts, the hosts and lurkers, because I know that that's not easy, but I'd like to apologize if you guys feel any type of way about it. I know it's hard when you hear that stuff to separate the criticism from how we view you, but as lurkers, we're there for a good show, and if we have something to say about you, that's a good thing as far as we're concerned. You know, for us, it's as important to have good heroes to a story, quote unquote, as it is to have good villains. So I think you guys should be very proud of yourselves. First of all, I mean, Aaron, you won, so congratulations there.
Yeah.
Woo.
But also, Dean, you drove a lot of the strategy this season, as well as Carl. So certainly you guys had a huge impact on the season, which is more than I could say for some people in the cast.
Yeah, and you know what? It's like, I am totally fine with the podcasts and how they were, to be honest. I mean, it could have been a lot worse. And I imagine what was written in the Lurker server was probably a lot worse than what was said in the podcast. But regardless, for me personally, I was just here to have fun. I didn't know what I was doing, but I thought the more I play this game, the more strategy I'll do. And just my character sort of developed. And I mean, obviously a defining moment for my arc in the season was the whole Allison thing, which really drove my villainous up. So I own that. I know what happened. And honestly, I still had a really fun time playing it. I had a fun time immediately after. So it's all good to me. I love being a villain rather than someone boring as fuck.
Absolutely. Aaron, you had some criticism about the Allison thing as well. Namely, you said we left out the fact that you had apologized to Allison and defended her and asked Dean to cut it out, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, so that whole thing, I think, was really just like driven so far, like out of control for like what it was supposed to be. Like the whole thing was like, I knew coming in that Nofu was just not a fan. And so I knew Nofu wasn't going to be a fan. Nofu was like pretty, adamant in being like, hey, listen, like warning me things were coming. So for the most part, I was like, okay, I was just taking it in stride. Like it was what it was. Like I knew I was going to get torched. But the one thing where I kind of just, as you can see, a lot of the people in our cast were like super overly emotional, I think. And Allison, who I truly did develop like a friendship with in there, was basically like swinging hard for the fences, her basically having told me about what happened with Dean. And then it basically, the way the podcast was edited, it just looked like I just went straight back to Dean and was just like, dude, fuck this chick. Like, she's fucking crazy. Which, by the way, the whole thing, I stand by that. Like, I still think the whole thing was like pretty nuts. But like, and the reason I was upset was because like she was genuinely hurt as like from a friend level. So I was like, all right, well, just so you know, like they left out the fact that like the first thing I said was that I went to Dean and I was like, dude, are you fucking nuts? Like that was, why would you do that? And at this point too, again, not that it mattered, but we had conversations about like women. So I was like, why are you like trying to embarrass her and tell her that like you're gay? And like basically make it seem like, oh, you were playing her the whole time. Like that's even more fucked up. And then he was like, well, I'm gay. I'm like, all right, well, that's fine that you're gay, but like, why the fuck did you have to do it like that? Like that's fucked up. So I wanted Allison to just know that like from a friend level, yeah, I definitely said shit and I stand by it. It was fucking a crazy situation, but like I wasn't a complete dickhead. And then it turned into me like trying to get sympathy. Like I really don't care what people thought about how I reacted to the situation. I more cared about Allison at least knowing that, yes, I was saying shit, but I did like defend her. And I just wanted her to know from a friend standpoint, like it wasn't just me being a total asshole. I know I was an asshole, but not, there was some human aspect to it.
He couldn't come close to my level of assholeness, but no, he did tell me. I remember in the IMs, he was like, dude, like, why the fuck? And I was just like, well, it's just me.
He went on and said some things, and then the rest, then the what the fuck is she doing stuff came out, which, I feel bad that she was upset about it and I would never want to make her upset. Like from a friendship level, I really do consider her a friend, but it's, it was a weird situation for sure.
Just to interrupt, Nick has now joined us.
Yes, hello.
Nicky boy.
Love to see it.
Fashionably late.
Yeah, my bad. I totally lost track of the time. I was like, oh shit, it's like 9:10. I gotta hop on.
A couple of things about what you just said, Aaron, before we get too far sidetracked. Number one, I love that you have been calling him Nofu. I think he will get a huge kick out of that. I think that might be the best way to get back. Name? It's Nofo. I think that's the best way to get back at him, though, personally. Also, I think you guys are, there's a criticism that people get too emotional and stranded. That's valid. And then there's the criticism that it's just a game, right? So I think it's both. I think maybe Allison and Dean got too personal for a game. And then I also think we have to remember it is just a game. So maybe somewhere in the middle. Like, first of all, I don't think anyone viewing still thinks badly of any of you guys. I think we all have seen enough seasons and been around long enough to know that it is just a game. However, I do understand that for you guys, it's fresh. So it takes a little while to get used to all of this, and especially having learned a lot about what happened that you didn't maybe know at the time. It's a lot to get used to. So thank you guys for hanging in there with us. And hopefully you'll get used to the savagery of Stranded as you go. There's a learning curve.
I feel like I might add to it down the line, to be honest.
So let's start at the beginning. Carl, you were a big part of why these guys got together. I think what made you guys so effective was that you had two Nairi and two Miambo working across tribal lines, so you were able to kind of bridge that gap and find any weak links between the two tribes.
Yeah, when we first got to that tribe, I've talked about it a little bit, but just seeing how that Davy vote went down, I was just like, yeah, they're gonna team up all together. I'm not gonna let that slide. And then once Jessica told me about John's idol, it just seemed easy to just go after them immediately. Just put myself in a more advantageous position. My goal was always going to be once we get out John, and then also see what the numbers are from there, and figure out my best course. Once I saw that opportunity, just knowing that we were on the 3-3 tribe, someone was going to have to flip. I wasn't going to let them flip on me, and there were easy vote outs. Plus, Aaron was really chill. We talked a lot that first night. I think I talked to Aaron the most at the beginning. He was the first one I was going to be like, yeah, we can get the four of us together, get this ball rolling.
Yeah.
Dean and Aaron, you guys, after forming the alliance with Carl and Nick, you guys had like some assumptions about what would happen with your original Miyumbo, and then quickly, like every tribal council that would happen after the swap, people would go home that you weren't expecting. Did that solidify your alliance with the boys more than your original Miyumbo people?
Definitely at the merge period, for sure.
For sure.
Like, the more people left, the more I thought, okay, this is my new core group. And originally I was pro Myombo, and I thought that most of us would get back together, like probably most of October 3rd and 49th parallel from who was still remaining, and that us four would sort of be almost like a side thing. That's what I thought before the merge anyway. And then once merge happened, I realized, no, we gotta sort of adapt to this new reality.
Nick, you were the one who really turned on the bros after Carl's boot, or maybe before Carl's boot, I'm not sure.
Definitely before.
Before, yeah.
Definitely before. Okay. Carl's correcting me. So why did you feel the need to flip on them, and did you view it as a solid 4 like the other guys did?
I had like no doubt. Like, if I stuck with the 4, I would have probably made it to the end. But the thing was that I didn't have that social connection with the other people for me to like ever have the possibility of winning. And so I felt like the only way for me to like win the whole game was that if I built up my strategic like portfolio. And so the best thing at that point for me to do was to turn on the 3 of them. So I ended up doing it at the 11 because that was the last point for me to do it on my own without Dean or Aaron or Carl helping me out with the flip.
Dean, were you shocked by Nick turning on you guys?
I mean, in hindsight, I probably should have. And at the time, I was. And I forget who it was. I think we thought it was... I don't even remember who it was, but we didn't think, like me and Aaron at least, we didn't think that it was Nick who flipped until he told us. And we were like, what the fuck? Why? So, yeah, I guess we were pretty shocked.
Aaron, I think even in the podcast, I did eventually give you credit. I think after the final 7 or so, I think you played probably the perfect end game for what you needed to. As frustrating as it might have been for Nofo and some of the lurkers, I do think you played the best game heading into the finals to win. Did you think at any point, because you had said you would bring Dean to the end with you, were you thinking about who you needed to get rid of to win, even amongst your bros, or?
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty clear for, I think, everybody who saw me play. I was thinking of everything at all times. Like, it was always, where do I need to get to? I think I wrote like my dream boot list 100 times. I wrote it, like rewrote it and rewrote it and rewrote it, just like trying to figure out in my confessionals to figure out where I need to go. But yeah, Dean would have probably been the only one that no matter what, I would never have turned on. It got to a point, I think, with Dean where it was him and I spoke all day, every day, just about like the game and like life and shit. And I was just like, there's no way that I was going to be able to do it, just because of like we had gotten so close at that point. And I don't think I would have been able to do some of the shit that I did, because once he left, it was like an anger that kind of came over me where I was like, all right, it's time to fucking go now. Like, it's just, I'm by myself and I'm going to have to start cutting heads. And so, you know, there was no way I could have done it at that point. But yeah, I definitely was thinking about possibilities, where to leave people off, like where to leave Carl. Because I wanted to take Carl, but I didn't know if I could realistically do it. It was like a John and Allison situation. Like, there was no way me, Dean, and Carl were going to be able to make it all together, probably. So
yeah, I think looking from an outsider, you know, if we have these 2 alliances of 4, the Brotos and the Bros, I think we're seeing John and Carl as like the big strategic leaders of those groups. Now, of course, those people don't win usually. They're too big of targets, right? So maybe that's not the best strategy, but certainly they were the most in your face about strategy, where, you know, they had idols, they were playing them, they were controlling the different groups in terms of moves, or at least maybe not controlling, but maybe a big part of the decision making, let's say. So I want to commend you, Carl, for a game well played, but also, were you aware that maybe you were playing a little too hard too quickly?
Yeah, I definitely was. I knew that I was going to have a big target, especially after that first weekend. Like once we merged at 13 and the Chelsea vote out, I had voted for Angelina, and I figured that people were going to surmise that, oh, he's the one who flipped. And I knew that whole weekend I was very paranoid, very active, trying to just make sure the votes weren't going on me, and ended up directing them towards Missy, that vote. And immediately from there, I was just like, fuck, I'm going to be a big target. They're going to eventually want to go after me. I knew I just had to get out John first, because I saw him also as the biggest threat. Once I would have gone for John, honestly, I probably would have flipped. If I got John on my vote out, I probably would have flipped either the next one or the following one and gone after. I thought Dean was probably the second strongest, just like within the game from our group. And I was going to be a big target, and they were going to look at me. They were going to flip. So I was going to get out the other big target before they got me.
I think, that's a common strategy we see in a lot of new player seasons, and I think it's your natural instinct is to want to get rid of the biggest threat, right? Because you want to win. Yeah. However, I think once you guys go after all of the big targets, that just leaves you as the next big target that's going to get taken out.
Yep.
Do you think that you had a little too much tunnel vision on getting out John, and that might have led to your demise?
Yeah, I also thought John was never going to trust me again, especially with how much he went after me for the Jessica vote out, trying to vote out Allison, getting Missy. I didn't think that he would ever trust me again. So I probably did tunnel vision on a little, but I also thought, like, what's the point of keeping around this potentially big threat? He's not going to trust me. I know he came to me and talked to me about, like, hey, the middle's going to control this game. Nick, Gara, all these people who did end up, he was correct. They did flip, and they did end up controlling this game. They got both me and him out eventually. So in retrospect, it would have been better to do like a Jeremy strategy and keep my meat shields and keep people like John closer to me. But I also didn't think he would ever trust me again. So it was, stuck between a rock and a hard place on that.
Nick, I think I have to commend your flip after. I mean, in some ways, I do think you had everything lined up to go very deep, and maybe you would have stood a better chance of winning, maybe. But I also, there's a lot to be said for making a resume for your game. I think actually where I fault you was not doing anything after the first flip. I think maybe had you gotten back with the guys after that, if possible, that might have done you a better service. What do you think about that?
Yeah,
it was so possible.
I know. It's definitely my biggest regret, because I underestimated how much that kind of made me a threat a little bit, because I thought that I would just get rid of Dean and Aaron, and then the Parados were going to explode on themselves, and that I was going to be the ideal person to bring to Final 3, which is obviously incorrect. So yeah, it's definitely one of my biggest regrets, not at least considering flipping back and working with Dean and Aaron. I still wanted to get people to trust me, and I felt like little chance I had of people trusting me would be me not flipping again, and that's why I didn't flip. So
yeah, I mean, it's a typical gameplay towards the end of a season to just kind of get rid of the big targets and hope you're not one of them, right? I think most of you guys were playing that way towards the end. I think for Aaron, it was the correct way to play, right? But maybe for someone like Nick, who was probably fifth, or I guess if you're going reverse order, probably like second or third biggest threat towards the end. So that's not a great place to be if they're getting rid of threats one at a time. You kind of want to be like fourth biggest threat, like maybe Aaron was,
Yeah, that's kind of where I wanted to jump in after Carl's. The kind of like what was key for me, and it was really key in my relationship with Dean, is that it was so imperative to my game that there remained two sides. Like two sides needed to be like in play, because there was no way that I was going to be the first one on. I was so vocally bad at challenges that I knew that I was going to get the whole like, okay, we can get him out whenever. We don't need to worry about him. But Dean's this way and Carl's that way. So for me, it was imperative that we kept the like, John is so dangerous. Allison is such a flirt. She's so dangerous. Like, she's so manipulative. Like, it was imperative that I kept that, because if I lost it at any point in time and we tried to, like, for example, like when Dean tried to be like, oh, I'm going to make this sub alliance with Allison, and I immediately blew it up, because I was like, there's no way.
I didn't try to make it. I was asleep when that was made.
When it was made, I knew that there was no chance that was going to be able to fly, because I was like, all right, if there's any connection to the other side and this becomes like one tribe game and everything breaks, I'm a very easy person to take out, and so I needed to keep it like the we hate them kind of thing, or else I was going to be exposed. So I agree with you.
I guess let's talk to the early jurors. Was there any, I guess this is Dean and Carl, was there any question when Aaron was in the final three of whether you were going to vote for him to win?
He definitely had like the advantage for me, but no offense, I thought him and Kara both, you saw it in like everyone's responses, I thought they were just like clearly left the biggest threats. They were the under the radar person. There was definitely a chance Kara could have done it. Maybe if she does that idol play, I think she has a bigger move in her gameplay. You know, I went into that final week just saying, if Kara can like actually like play this game and, you know, do something massive within her final week, she could totally have gotten my vote. Once we had the final tribal council, I think Aaron definitely had like the advantage, just at least on my end.
Yeah, pretty much most of Ponderosa was just saying that the final three almost sort of felt like the leftovers, if you will. Mm-hmm. But I still thought that Aaron and Kara were pretty good. But at the end of the day, I was leaning towards Aaron for a variety of reasons. And when it came to final tribal council, he just really impressed me with his answers even more. And when I saw how loyal he was, that just really set something in me where I was like, oh my God, wow, he really deserves my vote, I think. And Kara was the total opposite. Honestly, her responses to some of the questions helped Aaron for my vote personally, because she just made herself look like a fool trying to take credit for some moves that I don't think she did. And she really tried to hype up the same things like the Davy vote. And I just don't think I don't think she would have been the best winner. I mean, she would have been better than Jack, but I don't think that she would have been on top.
I would agree with that. I think, like you said, I think, Aaron, you played a steady game, like a solid, good under the radar game throughout. And I think Kara had like ups and downs, as a difference between you two. I think she needed a few more ups towards the end of the game, though.
Yeah.
Let's talk to Nick a little bit. Where were you at in that final? Because you had worked with both sides.
Yeah.
And you were kind of leaning. Who did you vote for? I forget.
I vote for Aaron.
Okay. You were kind of leaning Kara, though, at some point.
Yeah, Jury, you fucking really went to bat for Kara. I legit thought you were almost a solid vote for Kara based on how you were in Jury.
I tried so hard to want myself to vote Kara, but the way she played, like the Allison vote and then my vote, I was not a huge fan. I was 50-50 between Kara and Aaron, because Aaron, I felt like, played a much better game, but then Kara was definitely like my number one ally towards the end. So like a part of me just really wanted Kara to pull through. But at the same time, I really wanted to vote someone that actually like deserved to win the game. So
I think that's how a lot of lurkers felt. I think, it's like, maybe, I mean, we can respect the game Aaron played. I think that's,
In my opinion, I feel like there's a world where, say we get out John and Allison beforehand, we talked about them not pagonging us and leaving Aaron in, and then eventually, he has the votes on the jury that could have done it for him, that ended up doing it for him. I think there's a world where instead of John and Allison going out at 7 and 6, it's like me and Dean, and then Kara's playing more of a game that we see like Aaron's, where she's the underdog going into that final week, and then Aaron doesn't play as strong of a game towards the end, and it's Kara who's getting those votes instead. I think there's a world where that could have happened as well. I thought they didn't.
Yeah, I agree.
No question. I totally agree. And Poody, this is a question for you, though, from the lurker's perspective, because I guess this was because obviously that John contingent was still that fan favorite. But in my eyes, and this is purely lurkers, like the jury wouldn't have seen this. And I tried to like express this in my last tribal, because as you could probably tell, everybody would post and I would post right away. I was fucking obsessed. I like couldn't even sleep that weekend. It was fucking horrible. But when the lurkers saw Kara completely done, and I said, look, I'm going to take care of this. Like, just sit tight, don't say anything, and like, I'll get you to the end. And then I brought her to the end. how did, like, from my standpoint, and again, maybe this is me not like seeing what was really going on, but from that move alone, I was like, as long as I can explain this, there's no possible chance Kara's going to win, because she just had to sit and hope that I could work Jack over, which is basically
I think Kara lost the lurkers when she didn't idle Allison, not because to save Allison, but because she needed the move and she didn't make it. So at that point, I think a lot of the lurkers were frustrated and didn't think that Kara necessarily deserved to win. That's number one. Number two, I think it came across more arrogant, telling her, like, oh, I'm going to carry you to the end at this point, more than it did, like, good gameplay.
Right.
That being said, I'm pretty sure everyone thought you played the best game going into Final Tribal. Just especially because, like, Jack was out of it as far as all the lurkers were concerned, and Kara had kind of blown it at Final 6. So really, after Tommy left, you were the most solid choice. Really, it was like neck and neck between you and Tommy. I think if Tommy gets to the end, he probably wins just based off of connections.
No question.
But I'm pretty sure at like Final 6 or so, we all saw you as the obvious winner marching towards the end, after John leaves. So I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it did. I think for me, and it kind of circles back fully around to the beginning of the Brocast here. I think what really took me back was I definitely expected me and Dean weren't going to be super well liked. I wasn't like dumb to that. I don't think I was expecting us to be as unliked as we were. And I definitely wasn't expecting my game to be viewed the way that it was viewed against Kara's game. Like, I thought, in my opinion, I was like, John's not going to vote for me because I didn't tell him one single truth I told him too many truths the entire game. I was too honest. So I knew I just played too, my integrity was too strong for him to vote for me. And I knew Allison was going to be kind of like, she was giving me some hope, I won't lie. During the final tribal council, she was definitely giving me some hope, but I thought that was going to be a long shot. And then I lost Tommy, and I knew that was probably going to happen too. I was like, there's no way he's that good of a guy where he's going to just vote for me, even though I just screwed him after I swore on everything that I would take him to the end. But, I was definitely shocked at the response.
I think lurking in general, first of all, there's a little bit of groupthink, but also you'll see it when you play again. It's kind of like when you watch a TV show and you're overly critical of everything someone's doing, and you would probably not say that to their face out of respect for them. But of course, like, we're recording it and
sure.
You're going to listen to it. Mm-hmm. But like, also, okay, you were listening to the Harshest podcast, which came right after Allison was done dirty, let's say. So of course, like, that was at the peak of lurking frustration that was going on. So of course we were going to judge you more harshly during that period. I think it's a weird experience. You'll understand it when you lurk, just like you kind of understand it after you play Stranded, where going in you would never be able to explain to yourself how emotional it will be.
Oh.
It's the same thing lurking. It's like, for some reason, watching it, you root for the underdog most of the time. Most people get on board with like a particular group of favorites or people that they don't like. But I think if you've watched it enough and you've experienced it before yourself, you can separate that from the people, which is why we don't let you guys into the lurking server. We made that mistake before, where we let people see the criticism and it was like not pretty.
Yeah.
And some things aren't meant to be seen, right?
Yeah.
One thing, though, I want to say, though, is that you went on about rooting for the underdog, which is generally true. But I think that's one thing that shocked me personally, because, I mean, everyone's the hero of their own story, and I understand that. But I really did feel that us four were sort of more, like, I almost felt more of the underdog compared to John, because I felt that everyone was with John and Allison and everyone, and that they were in cahoots with everyone, whether it was strategy or just socially and friendly. So it was sort of a shock to come out and see them being so liked compared to us. And for me, that was the kicker. It wasn't the fact that we were hated. At least for me, I know I was fucking hated, and that's fine. I expected it personally. But the love that they got was the thing that was truly shocking to me.
It's a hard one to describe because I don't know why that is. I don't know why we're drawn to one particular player that probably played very similarly to another group. I think it just happens naturally when you're watching people. I guess it's because the Peroto tribe itself they had such unity and they were acting selflessly in terms of like the boots that they were making, right? Like they got rid of Christian instead of Jack. And I think that is what made the difference in terms of lurking. And the fact that there were 4 Peroto, although there were 4 of you guys, I think those guys had like a target at the merge and they were in a smaller number. So I think that's what swung it. But then again, it could just be the fact that like Allison and Cara were women, or, it's arbitrary, right?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it is also our 4 coming together did come from, like, I assume we were the baddies. Our 4 coming together did come from you 2 throwing a challenge and then me and Nick flipping on Jessica and blindsiding her with an idol. We didn't do it like ours coming together wasn't like the nicest way. I assumed we were the baddies, but I was fine with that. I also didn't think that they would get as much love as they did, but
Carl, you also got
You didn't get the brunt of it, yeah.
Yeah, Carl got like the being a bad.
He got the brunt of the, why did you vote on Jessica? Because they would not shut the fuck up about
I didn't expect that.
He got the being a bad guy without having to fucking get ridiculed. I mean, there was multiple times. Like, it's fucking sick. Like, here's the thing about Survivor. And first of all, this is a major credit to you, Poody, first and foremost. As I said in my last thing, I mean, you've created an environment that's truly like as immersive of an experience as it gets. I mean, I messaged you the last day before the votes were read. I had not slept at all that entire weekend. I was fucking shaking in bed. I was up till like 4 o'clock in the morning. I was like, I'm gonna fucking lose. And then I'd be like, oh wait, this is about a game for $100. Like about a fucking online Survivor game.
It's what matters. And
then I would go right back to shaking again. But the point being is that, you think it's going to be so cool coming out and being the bad guy. You have no idea how brutal it is. I mean, I don't think...
And that's only 30 people yelling at you. Imagine if you had all of Twitter. Some of those guys on the real show get.
Oh, yeah.
It was it's a nightmare, but...
the cool part about Stranded, although it is a lot, is that everyone's such a big personality. I don't think anyone takes it like too seriously when they're bashing someone in the game. I know like it's hard to take that when you first get out, especially given how emotional the entire experience is and it's all very new. But I don't think any players are like, fuck those guys, we don't want them around. You know what I mean? I think it's just more of like criticizing your game or how you were in a game, but we all understand that it is a game,
Yeah, and it's such a socially it's a truly unbelievable experiment in the sense that you take pieces of who you are and you emphasize it so much more for every situation you're in. Like, it's funny how I think Dean and my relationship is very indicative of that. Because I think Dean and I, our whole relationship was based around this like bro like attitude, like this fuck everybody, like this almost elitist bro douchebag attitude.
That, we gave no fucks about anyone.
That was but it was so like not truly indicative of like Scott and Tyler. But in the game, it was so real. And you like feel like that. Like you kind of lose track of the real world and like the game world. Like Scott or Dean and Aaron are not Scott and Tyler. Like it's truly an unbelievable experience.
Really immersed.
So more to that point, I think we've had it in the past where someone's come out of the season extremely beloved, Reem, and then immediately after went into another season where they were universally hated, right? And that's super difficult for them to get used to. But it's also like people are different at different points in their life. And I think everyone has something in them. Like everyone has a little bit of John in them during the game. Everyone has a little bit of Dean in them. So, you pull on these different things in different scenarios that you, and yeah, I know Dean's going to make a joke about.
I'll keep it to myself.
Yeah, he would love a little John in him, I think.
Hey, by the way, Dean, Dean, I really enjoyed this conversation. Let's make sure we circle back tomorrow. Let's circle back tomorrow.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. I still have a fucking hour-long message to respond to. He's still writing.
So,
oh my God.
So no, I think that's also part of it, is that it's very much season to season, circumstance to circumstance. We understand that is not Scott and Tyler, that's Aaron and Dean, right? And also we know it's easy to get carried away in a game and in a situation. It's funny when you do this enough, you understand like people inherently bond together by hating on someone else, right? Like, or at least that's a common theme that you'll experience throughout any season. So we can judge you guys all we want, but the fact of the matter is we'd probably do the same thing in that particular circumstance, or maybe worse. So I wouldn't take that too personally. Let me ask, I guess we'll go down the row, starting with Carl. Do you have any regrets about how you played, and would you play again?
Oh, I'd 100% play again. I'll play whenever. My biggest regret is not working on my relationship with Nick as much as I could. And,
yeah, you fucker.
I should have.
You
and
then trusted you to do that.
Fucking idiot, Carl.
And then the last stage is like basically throwing away Tommy's vote. You see them keep talking about it. I can't wait for Tommy to listen to this. Tommy should get credit for that vote. No, the only one who should get credit for that vote is Nick. We threw Tommy's vote away. Nick should get all the credit from my blind side, not Nick and Tommy. I just want to make that clear.
I agree.
That's my biggest regret there. Other than that, no, I didn't mind putting myself as a big target. I have so much fun playing the way that I did. Next time I'll certainly play different. We'll see how that goes. But that's my number one regret there.
Dean, same question.
I came into this not knowing anything. I haven't seen Survivor in ages. I didn't even know that these online games existed. And so my placement, I think, is pretty darn good for what I could do. As far as regrets go, I would say that perhaps not being as flexible would be something, because I was really rigid on the four of us, and Nick was a complete blind spot. I mean, he probably was for most of us, but I legitimately thought that we could go far. I thought that we would stay strong. I didn't feel that there was a need to go across lines. I felt that everyone should have just stayed in their lane. And I guess that's just not how things work in Stranded. And so that's something that I'm going to be remembering for next time, and something I try to think of for rematch, but not there anymore. So,
Nick, would you play again, and do you have any regrets?
I would love to play again. Well, I've been on the online Survivor circuit for a long time now, and something I regret with this season is that I've kind of fallen into like the same repetitive strategy that always gets me like 5th to 8th, where I don't develop socially and I make a big move at the merge, but then I don't follow up with anything, and then that's it, And so I definitely regret some of the strategy that came after Carl's vote. And I also just regret, not being online for the most important like talks of the game and just getting to know people. I mean, there's a lot of incredible people here that I feel like I could have developed my relationship with, that I ended up just, going to bed too early, and I didn't really get to know them that well. And so I hope now I get to. So, but I would love to come back soon and play again.
And Aaron, you won, so I can't imagine you have too many regrets. But if you have any, what are they, and would you play again?
So I don't have any regrets. I think hindsight is really 20/20. So I think there's things that I've learned from playing that I would do differently. I know I said I was losing my mind in the first podcast, me saying that I'd like played like 100 times. I'd never played one of these before. So I was definitely happy to have won my first one ever. I did it for my brother, who hopefully I'll be able to get into the mix eventually.
Yeah.
So I think I told you guys that during the interview. That was my number one reason for doing this. My little brothers were about 8 years apart, didn't have a ton in common. Reality TV was something, and he really wanted me to do this. So I was definitely glad that I got to do it. And he followed along and definitely want him to get involved. And I think if there was a way where I could play with him, or if the season made sense for like, me to have a chance, then I would probably do it. But I would need to, it would need to make sense.
You want to quit while you're on top. It's I want to tarnish you.
I mean, there's things that I would love to do again, just to do it. Like, I think, for example, like this whole, just like trolling around, like in the server right now, talking about like how honest and like integrity driven I was. And like shit like that. Like, I would love to just go around and just like, try out different things, see how it would work. And
I think, we got to see the Aaron that plays a good game. I'd love to see the Aaron that has a big personality and maybe make some crazy moves.
Yeah. No, I definitely, because I think what I was intending on doing and what I ended up doing were two totally different things. I think like I came in and I was like, I'm just going to fuck around. Like, I'm just doing this for my brother. Like, I'm not doing this for like me. And then day one, I was like, I'm going to fucking win this thing. And like, so I just totally changed how I was going to approach everything and was just like, I'm just going to try to fucking win. And I think I would love to, be a little bit of a troll and have a little fun, see what kind of fun we could have on there.
All right. Well, I don't have any more questions for you guys. If you have any, do you have anything else you need to get out there before we close this out?
I can't wait to flame Aaron's brother as a lurker whenever he gets to play.
Oh, it's fun. Danny's brother played, and it was fun.
I think that's the thing I'm the most worried about, because I'm just going to be like I think I'm going to be way more invested in him than I am in he's way smarter than me. Like, he knows what the fuck he's doing. Like, I'm not, I mean, I literally I had no fucking clue half the time what I was doing. Like, those challenges, I think I sometimes I even tried to play it off. Like, I was like, oh, I was actually pretty close in that challenge. Like the maze, I got the first checkpoint.
I don't know if anyone bought that. Yeah.
I didn't even, and then I was like, Tommy, dude, I was like right behind you, bro. Like, I was like 1 second away. And he's like, oh, thank God, like you were close behind.
I think you lucked out on the pre-merge challenges, that nothing was too, he didn't rely on you too much.
Yeah, that was good for that.
No doubt. And then like the social awareness challenge, like that was kind of just a little bit of a lucky pull, but whew.
Yeah, there were some weird things with that.
I think, you're not the first person to get notoriously, Sebastian, or Ziggy, as you guys might see him around the server, was one of our better winners, but he just got roasted in the final tribal. And it's like 4 days of answering questions and people that you form bonds with, like tearing you a new asshole. So it's tough. It's tough for everyone.
Dude,
it's good, Aaron.
It's hell. Mm-hmm. I was distraught. I wrote it in my last confessional. I was like, how the fuck did Dean get the balls to just start talking shit on me like that? I was like, he's got a lot of balls all of a sudden.
He was like crying at that, and he's like a super laid back dude. He was like, I don't know what this is.
It's fucking terrible. And it was, luckily, that was what was, I guess, lucky for me and Kara. I think the worst shots that Kara got were from me just throwing quick jabs and then answering questions, because I was just like, the only chance I have to lose this is if fucking Kara is like an unbelievable writer like Jack was, and somehow manages to talk about what turned lemons into lemonade, I guess. So,
I mean, Jack would have won if he had more pictures of his luscious hair to post.
Jack
funny, dude.
Actually had some momentum going into final, which was terrible from the host's perspective. I love the kid, but
he had an amazing final tribal council.
He did pretty good for himself, considering where he was at in the game.
A 0% chance of voting him. I considered him. I definitely considered him.
Yeah, and then Dan voted for him.
Yeah, of course Dan did. I love Dan.
Nick, I was losing my mind when you were like, yo, man, that was so like touching and like heartwarming. I'm like, are you fucking
really was.
And you're like, and then you're like that was so touching and heartwarming. And then you're like, Aaron, you're like a politician, and that was like fake as fuck. I'm like, dude, we were like friends in the game. I'm like, what do you mean? I was like, I was about to kill. Jack's story was great.
It's probably because I like never heard of anything about like Jack's life until like then. So like it was really overwhelming for me compared to you, who like I knew like pretty well by that point.
Yeah, when you wrote that whole thing, you like your whole tribal jury, your whole jury question was just everyone was ratting you out for it in Ponderosa, being like, "What the fuck, Nick?"
I was so pissed. I was so pissed because I was like, well, what the fuck? Tommy threw it away. Dean is now being a fucking dickhead. So I have no idea what the fuck is going to happen.
I was trying to help you though. Like the way my question was worded,
it was so bad, dude.
Like I was trying to sort of give you a little out because I think a lot of people viewed us two as like a strong duo, and that I was sort of the more out front one. And so, the way I sort of tried to word my question, and you really focused on the henchman stuff, but my questions were really sort of to give you an out to sort of tell me and more so anyone else who was lurking our chat that you did not just follow all my moves and that you had your own shit that went down that you did, because I know that there was a few things that you did on your own that even impressed me. So I was like, I was waiting for you to say that, and then you wrote like half of it about the henchman comment, and I was like, dude, that wasn't the point.
I was so mad. I was literally like, is this guy fucking serious right now? I was like, we literally talked all day, every day, strategized everything together. I'm like, this fucking guy, he's gonna sink me. I'm like, he's gonna sink me. And then I was like, he's gonna fucking sink me. Nick, all of a sudden, not boys anymore. Out of nowhere, I'm too political. I'm like, well, what the fuck is going on? Now, Jack's story. Well, I mean, who fucking knew he was Ernest Hemingway all of a sudden? Just like I was reading it. I was literally in a Starbucks drive-through, and I was reading it, and I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. I said that out loud, and I love Jack as I think he's an awesome person. Him and I had like very personal conversations about like his life, so I knew that was probably the angle that he was going to go, and I didn't even expect it to be that good. It was fucking awesome. And if Jack, if you're listening, I doubt you are, but you're a fucking rock star, dude. And even though you didn't play a very good game, you're a great guy. So
I love Jack. I wish he got more recognition for just being an awesome standout guy.
Not in Stranded, you don't. Maybe other series, but
well, apparently, if you're fucking Nick, if your Nick accounts for something.
Well, that's because Nick made moves.
No, that final tribal. And he's like, oh yeah, Jack, you're my fucking boy now. I'm just going to ignore everything else that happened in this game because you told me a great fucking story.
Well, I voted you in the end. So it's okay.
I was so glad Jack only got one vote. I mean, I like Jack, but if Jack had won, I think that just sends a terrible message to future players of like how to win stream. It's like, just be nice and shut up the whole season.
He was brutal. He was so
you
brutal.
won another India or whatever season it was that you said where GOAT won.
Yeah, I was like throwing shit at the wall at that point, like trying to wake everyone up to, it's not like he can't win,
Oh, dude, Poody, that was, again, one of the best things. You actually throwing that assist was one of the greatest things. I think what you said, the line of questioning that you had for Jack about him being a GOAT was purely predicated off of like what he had said. So you were like jumping in and being like, okay, well, if you're the GOAT, like, does it make sense for everybody to bring like Jack along? Jack was so upset about that. I was like, thank you, fucking Poody, for doing this. And I immediately messaged him. I'm like, Jeff is such a dick, bro. Like, Jeff is the worst.
Well, to be fair, I am a dick, but I can only bring up stuff that people say or answer. So usually I'll go to other people and they'll tell me who the biggest non-entity is. But in this case, he volunteered himself, so of course I was gonna attack. He
really embraced it. He was really grazing on that pasture.
I don't know if he was, just kind of, if there was like some passive aggressiveness in that, or if he was like trying to paint himself as more of a GOAT. I'm not sure, but certainly it gave me a lot of fodder to go after,
we kind of had no choice after, like, there was a certain period of time where he had gone so far in the game playing that way that there was no way that he could, like, pivot it in a way that made him seem like he had agency in his game. So he had to kind of
he would have had to really change his personality and go very hard on the last like 3 tribal councils in order to get some votes, I think, or enough to win.
Yeah,
he was really the thing that's like never made sense to me though, and Dean, you can attest to this, like, so Jack and I really didn't have, like, I tried really fucking hard to have a relationship with Jack prior to when we did, but he just kind of just wasn't interested in that. Like, he had Dean, he had Liz. He just wasn't super interested. And then I think it kind of hit him because I messaged him. I'm like, listen.
This was after I was out, right?
Yeah. I was like, listen, I'm going to take care of this. Like, we're sticking together. And then we started to kind of have some real conversations. The kid knew, like, he was very, very intelligent as far as his game speak. Like, what he was very aware of what was happening, and he was very good at projecting out what would have happened by making certain decisions. But he just never was able to do that because he was just too in his emotions, I think.
He was definitely one of the most sensitive, if not the most sensitive person on the cast, which for people, I mean, luckily he wasn't an enemy of mine, or else I would have like really ripped into him. And that wasn't the case. But no, even from the beginning, Aaron, he really did not care about you at all. And he was probably thinking that you were on the bottom of anything. And it might have been just because of the personality clash. But unlike him, I embraced it. Like, that's why I love Stranded, because I mean, we're really fucking different people, I think, but we just got along so well, and we talked for so long about the game and outside the game as well. And but when back to Jack though, I think he really knew at that point he had to stick with you because there was no other way. And Poody said that if he made sort of moves at the last few tribal councils, he could have gotten more votes. But honestly, I think he was just so much of a goat that even after I left, if he played like an amazing game, like even a John level game, he still may not have won.
It's, you have to lay the groundwork. And sometimes if you fall behind in the early merge and get labeled as a GOAT, that's a really hard thing to shed.
Yeah.
Well, this is not a Jack podcast, so we'll steer it a little bit back towards the bros.
Yeah. Pop champagne pop.
No, dude, I actually have something I want to say. It is about Nick, and I think we touched on this in the chat a bit last night as I've exited my COVID brained life.
Oh yeah, you had COVID. Did you have COVID during Stranded?
I mean, no, but like I like the story arc, so I wasn't going to say.
We're just going to say you did. That's why you were so bad at the challenges, right?
I think it really added to my like integrity-driven, honest game. Like I think it really just, but
without Nick, COVID, you would have won every immunity, I'm sure.
Tell us you had COVID, and that sob story would have got you like a full unanimous win.
But I think Nick, actually, the one thing that always confused me and still confused me up until last night at 3:00 in the morning when we had this conversation was you discredited your social game so significantly, I think, that people actually started to believe it, but it was only because you were saying it. Like it wasn't, I think everybody knew you weren't as active, but when you were active, like you were having good conversations, like you were making relationships with people. For example,
right.
Like I can speak for myself and I could speak for Dean that we were friends. Like we got along in the game and your social game, so much so to the point that I didn't think there was any chance that you flipped. And so I think it wasn't until you started personally discrediting your social game that your social game actually became a hindrance to you winning the game.
You flipped on me and you still got my coins. Like that was...
Yeah, fuck you for that, Carl.
you're speaking for me, and I'm like, I'll just let Aaron finish. But I don't know. I didn't really feel as much of a connection to Nick just because he wasn't as active. But I still felt that as a group of 4, we needed to be together. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to bring him in. And so anytime I did talk to Nick, I really wanted to know how his day was. I want to know about his career. Or not career, but his school with medicine and everything else. But I thought that, how do I explain it? It was almost like as if anytime I tried to talk to Nick, it was only because he would only talk to me because I spoke first with him. And that's the thing.
Well, that's true. That's definitely true.
Even with all of that, it still shocked me when Nick flipped because you know what? I think it was more so not the social game, but it was more so the fact that you just seemed like someone steady. Yeah, I didn't want to say it because, I mean, there are much more obvious goats in my opinion. It was sort of like that, yeah, where I just was shocked I didn't know you had it in you. And I mean, we don't know what we did outside of this game prior. So like, I had no clue that you did this before and that you hosted things. I was like, holy shit, I can't believe you've hosted your own stuff before. Because honestly, I'm going to be honest here. You're probably one of the last people I figured that would have hosted a game based on how you played. No offense.
Yeah.
But
no, that's fine.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I thought that in Jury you were pretty all right. So I was like, I wish a little bit more of the social game did come out, but it is what it is.
I didn't really think I played that bad of a social game until I got to Ponderosa, where everyone was telling me that, like, you know, my social game definitely could have improved, and that, you know, in like the social game department, I really could have done a lot better. Like before I was voted out, I thought I was all right. Like, I knew I wasn't like a dean who was like talking to everybody every day and writing paragraphs, but
I just had no life, so I was on here.
I was gonna say, I think active in Stranded is a little different than like social game in other orgs. It's like Stranded's a little bit more intense.
Right.
Oh yeah, bro.
Right. And I was definitely a little offended because people like kind of correlated my social game to my activity, because I felt like I did give a lot of effort to the game, and that's why I got really pissed off a little bit at Ponderosa, because like everyone was telling me, you know, oh, you weren't on enough, and you know, you should have, you know, talked to people more. But I thought I came to all challenge and everything, and when you get something like 100% like I did, I felt like that when people tell you that your activity wasn't good enough, it sucked a lot. So
bro, that's the worst. That was the 100, and that is totally what I was referring to when I told that to Poody at the end. Like when you put your full investment into something and then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, like I'm hated to death, and told that I played like a, you know, not the type of game that you think you play. It's unbelievable, that emotion.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's tough. At the same time, you know, it's pretty rare that we get like a glimpse of ourselves or to reflect on a scenario that you played, right? Like we don't, in everyday life, there's no camera following us telling us that we did something wrong. So, I mean, there's an opportunity there to like see maybe how, you know, Nick, I don't think you were inactive. I think maybe you just didn't make a big enough splash socially or personality wise.
Right.
In the game, whereas, you know, maybe Lauren was on a third of the time you were, but she was so insane that that's all anybody could talk about. You know, the visibility was higher.
Lauren should be too. When she logged onto the server, and Dean, you were the worst. Yeah. You were like, she logs onto the server, and Dean immediately messages me. He's like, dude, Lauren's on. We're fucked. I'm like, oh, man.
He was like, oh, she's going to like dox me and find my house when I vote her out.
I was like, Lauren, I said everything you could possibly say about Lauren, I said. And
yeah, you were a big fan.
I was fucking furious because she kept changing her mind. She's like, oh, Aaron, he's a fucking coward, and like shit like that. Because like, I made fun of her about that stupid shit she wrote up to Dan about being a bad parent or some shit, or, oh, I can't, like, if you're not committed to Stranded 24/7 and like you take care of your kids and shit, then like you're an asshole. Like, it's all I was making fun of her. Oh, and then I made fun of her for it. And she's like, and that was it for me and Lauren.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like when people bring kids into it or people's like parenting, you know. I think that's a low blow.
parenting is,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Like, because there was a few times where Dan brought up his child and stuff, and I was like, you know what? There's so many easy shots I could make right now, and I mean, I can be pretty savage, but I'm like, you know what? No, like, he's an asshole on his own right. I have so much other material I can use to berate him.
Well, it's one thing to be funny, and it's one thing to be like, you're a bad parent. You know, I think if it's a meme, it's okay. You know, if it's funny, it's okay.
He was something else, dude. I got to go when he told me that he had to go into town to go. He's like, he messaged me one of our two conversations. Conversation one, which again, nothing got talked about when I was freaking out about me leaving at the Merge Tribal Council. It was because Dan messaged me out of nowhere, whispered to me and goes, "Yo, no hard feelings." So I was like, well, what the fuck does that mean, Dan? I never fucking talked to you ever.
You were like thinking, holy fuck, I'm going out. And I'm like, dude, Aaron, no one's talking about your name. Shut the fuck up.
You kept trying to get me to play my idol for you. Oh my God.
That might have been the only unanimous vote.
When somebody randomly messages you, no hard feelings, bro.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to fucking think? I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, Carl, get your fucking boy, bro. I was like, get your fucking guy.
The hardest thing about being your ally, to be honest. Your paranoia was so contagious. But, I mean, looking back at it, it was fun. It made the game more exciting, but oh my God, it was stressful. You gave me gray hairs, I think, but it was great.
Dude, imagine me then. Imagine me.
Oh yeah, I know. You're
gray hairs.
fucking bald.
Oh, it was fucking awful, dude. It was terrible. And then, I mean, but honestly, what are you supposed to think? When somebody that you've never spoken to just messages you and it's like, yo, no hard feelings. I'm like, okay, well, I've got to be, I'm fucked.
Yeah, especially because we were told by Carl, like, oh, don't worry, Dan's going to come with us. He's good with us. And so I was like, all right, cool, let's bring him in. And then he does all this shit. And oh my God, I mean, he did vote with us for I think the next 2 or 3 votes after the Chelsea vote. But I was like really hoping that he would have just voted on that one in particular. Because then we could have got Angelina out and Tommy and Chelsea we could have brought in with us. And we could have, maybe there could have been a steamroll. Who knows? But
and he called me disrespectful.
Yeah, I tried so hard to get him involved more. I don't know what was going on with him. Even Nick can attest. He was way more active in like that first week or so.
Yeah,
he was like way better.
That's what I keep
I
hearing.
talked about him all the time. I hated him back at the old Nairobi.
You can check my confessionals. I did not want to work with him further along, but if he was going to be a vote for us, like fuck yeah, I'll take him. And then all of you guys would think that I would be like devastated when we voted him out. I was never going to be that way. It would have been fine, but you know, it happens.
Dan was the one vote that everyone came together on. all sides were like, all right.
That was so satisfying.
At that point, that was where me and Dean had to just like fucking put our hands in our pockets and be like, if we can survive. That was when we just messaged each other. We're like, dude, we just need 2 tribals. I was like, we just need 2. If we can get Dan out and then we can get Jack out, we're gonna win the whole thing. We're gonna be able to control the votes. And so that was where, when we voted out Dan, I was like, oh my God, we're going to fucking make it. And if we made it out of that, we would have been in the final 3. No question. And
that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh my God, it's going to happen.
Yeah. And then John decided to do John things.
Just John things.
John things, Mr. And he, the liar, no integrity, no
least
honesty.
integrity person ever in the history of everything.
But it's Dean. What can we say? We're built different. We're a special breed. Us, honest truth tellers.
We're the most honest, purebred folks on this side of the galaxy.
All right. On that note,
I will say I'm so happy to have played with you guys, like, and be my allies in this game. You guys are great.
Oh my, honestly, yeah. Us four,
no question.
I love you all.
Yeah. I know I flipped, but like I appreciated like the 2 votes I was with you.
No, I think you guys were great. Not only for this season as a whole, I think we enjoy having you on the server. I think you guys are really good fun, and you've taken it like champs, because we certainly can give it in Stranded. But no, I thought you guys were great. You produced a great season. Like I said, we might praise John and Allison, but there wouldn't be anything to praise if there wasn't someone on the other end of it. So kudos to you guys.
Oh, yeah, exactly. We're the other side.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Thanks for having us in your game, Poods.
Thanks.
Yeah, I know it's not easy. I'm glad you guys finally had the opportunity to clear the air on some stuff. I'm glad I finally had the opportunity to let you know, like, we don't hate you guys. This is all just game. And I actually think you guys played a really good game. So congratulations there. Congratulations on your win, Aaron. And thank you guys for podcasting.
It's been great fun.
Yeah. Bye.